it's an important week for high school basketball. A lot of key games, conference deciding games. It should be a fun week for us, at least.
All right. I'm going to use a golf term. You know, in golf, they always say Saturday's moving day. I would say this is moving week for high school basketball because you get a position yourself, and in fact, we can start right off the top. You're going to the game of the day in both boys and girls. Kings Mountain can close out and dethrone officially Ashbrook tonight. Right. And the boys, the winner of this game, goes into the last 3 conference games with the lead. And Kings Mountain, if Kings Mountain beats Ashbrook, they'd really have a big lead because they'd have a 2-game lead over Ashbrook, even though it's only 1 game in the standings, so they'd have a sweep. So you're seeing the game of the night as far as that goes.
Yeah, it should be fun. Should be an electric atmosphere. Oh, but we got to introduce ourselves. Richard Walker, sports editor for the Star and the Gazette. Joe Hughes, I write for both. Just kind of highlighting the past week of high school basketball as well as looking forward to this upcoming week, as we said, which is huge in the grand scheme of things. But as you said, Big South 3A is just, it was unpredictable last week.
Yeah.
I think we could
and
probably
they weren't
say,
the only one.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we could make, I would argue, based on having seen the teams, and I would think you'd feel the same way, you know, give it up to Danny McDowell and Bessemer City for figuring out a way to beat Lincoln Charter, something nobody has been able to do in that conference for a long, long time.
Right.
And then you got, you know, kind of the crazy Southwestern 2A. South Point knocks off East Rutherford. East Gaston gets off the schneid after, and we found out what their problem was. They had, you know, them and North Gaston kind of season got a little derailed by a skirmish that caused, I think, 3 players, possibly 4, to be suspended 4 games.
If not more.
And it really messed up East Gaston's rotation, and now East Gaston seems, and that's the game I'm going to tonight. Shelby's at East Gaston. Shelby's got a chance to set up a play for first against East Rutherford. They still have that opportunity even if they lose tonight, but East Gaston arguably is playing as good as anybody in the conference. And, you know, they're the team that pushed East Rutherford more than anybody before South Point got them last week, and then East Gaston beat South Point last week. They beat Ashbrook, then they followed that up by beating Chase in a close game, low-scoring game after Chase had beaten them early in the year. So really kind of, in what it shows, and again, you know, I don't want to sound like one of these old fuddy-duddies in ACC terms, but it shows you what a true round-robin schedule can sometimes be.
Yeah.
Because just because you blow a team out the first time, yeah, you're probably going to beat them again, but ask Lincoln Charter how they feel about that after waxing. I mean, I think it was 70-48 at Bessemer City the first time they played.
Yeah.
And obviously not the same game and Bessemer City not only beats Lincoln Charter, they go to Lincoln Charter to do it 75-73.
And that comes on the heels of Lincoln Charter putting on a clinic against Piedmont Community Charter.
You saw that game,
won by 40 points, and it was not even close.
Right.
So that was definitely a surprising when it put everything back in play in that conference, because a win over Bessemer City would have given them a full 2-game lead over everybody in the league. Now it's down to 1, and you still have a meeting with Cherville left
next week. Yeah.
So it makes for quite an interesting deal. And of course tonight you have Bessemer City and Cherville.
Yeah.
So it should be.
And Cherville's had it going on against them the first 2 games. They played them in Cherville's Christmas tournament, and then played them again in a regular season. And Cherville's won both of those games. But you know, that's the classic. You can throw the records out when those 2 teams get together, and particularly in a year like this where both teams have shown the ability to be pretty effective. I know it was interesting. I saw, I guess, kind of the rebirth of Bessemer City, because I went to Piedmont Community Charter figuring, okay, I'm going to write about Piedmont Community Charter, goes in unbeaten matchup against Lincoln Charter. Instead, senior night gets ruined by gritty, gutty, unexpected performance by an 8-man Bessemer City team over at St. John Baptist Church over here in South Gastonia. I mean, it was really remarkable, and Piedmont Community Charter really hasn't responded since then, and Bessemer City seems to be on some kind of a roll.
Yeah, the way they play, it's tough to replicate. It's tough to emulate in practice, just because it's not your, as you said, they have 8 players, but they don't fit in the typical roles for a starting 5.
Their 5 shoots a lot of 3s.
Definitely.
Probably more than their 1.
Definitely, and that's
because their 1's more of a driver slasher.
That's what's going to make that matchup with Cherville so interesting, because Cherville likes to shoot the 3 as well, and Lane Harrell's very, very, very good at it. So Lane Harrell, of course, is going to be he might hold the key to the whole conference race, to be honest.
And obviously a junior that keeps improving, and I would say the same thing with East Gaston. Brandon Sherrill, I remember watching him first of the year thinking, you know what, he's tall, he's got obviously some things you can't teach.
Yeah.
He's really been a hub for East Gaston here down the stretch and doing some things. And another thing I was going to say about the girls, Hannah Clark, I know Dustin George, our colleague for the show, we started a story about her closing in on some interesting records in Cleveland County. I mean, she's got a chance to be the all-time 5-on-5 scorer, reached 2,000 points. I think Lindsay Montgomery from Shelby currently holds the record.
Yep.
But two women from the 50s scored 3,000 and 2,500 points back in the old 6-on-6 days, and it almost would take a whole video to explain the difference in the rules, but they changed in 1969-70, and girls basketball in our state has played the conventional 5-on-5 rules, but Hannah Clark is really on a roll, and the Kings Mountain as a team is really on a roll. So it's been a good run for them, and they've never won a regular season title since 1983. They won a tournament title in 06, but their only conference regular season title was all the way back in 1983. So they're really on the cusp of history for the Lady Mountaineers, because they could lose tonight and still win that conference, but tonight I think closes it out with 3 games to go.
Yeah, you really still have to think that they'd be the favorite regardless, even if they took a loss tonight, just because Ashbrook is the last real true hurdle that they have. They've Forest View might be able to give them a challenge, but
Burns and Crest shouldn't push them, although Burns has been one of those teams that's kind of been in the weeds. They knocked off Ashbrook last week. So.
But they've really, the way they dominated North Gaston on their home court maybe a week or so ago, I think that game right there is like, whoa.
Well, I'll give you an example of how quick they are. I go to see the Huss Kings Mountain game Friday night. It was in the first quarter. I'm thinking, hey, Marcus Mooney, congratulations, is committed to go to Yale. I wanted to do an interview with him. I interview him in the hallway behind the gym. I come back and it's a blowout. It was like 11-9, I believe. Kings Mountain. It was a close game at the end of the first quarter, and by the time I finished that interview, Kings Mountain had already taken. Now, granted, Kings Mountain should be able to handle Huss, but it shows you how explosive and how quickly they can change the tenor of a game.
Yeah, it was almost like we were watching 2 mirror games on Friday night. You saw basically the same with Crest and Ashbrook, where it was a 9-8 game, and all of a sudden it was 40-8.
Right.
But in some ways, it kind of shows how far away you have 3 teams from the rest of the field.
Sure. And that was kind of the preseason projection, although North Gaston was picked to win it.
Yeah.
And I think Kings Mountain and Ashbrook were left to duke it out. I believe Kings Mountain was 3rd in the actual preseason projections. Yes. But, you know, I remember we did feel like with Sanaya Wilson coming over from Gaston Day that she could give Kings Mountain a boost in chance. And speaking of Gaston Day, their conference tournament starts up this week.
Yeah.
And they get possibly a second chance at First Assembly in both. But that would be over in Charlotte at Hickory Grove Christian School. So their conference tournament, so they're a full 2 weeks ahead of the public schools as far as their conference tournament and playoffs.
Yeah, Zaria Clark, Olivia King are really playing some great basketball. Olivia King is a double-double machine. Yeah. We have a lot of double-double machines in this area. She's one of them, without a doubt. And of course, Demiana Lakem. Yeah. He's also a double-double machine, although ran into some trouble last week at Hickory Grove Christian. Some foul trouble, kind of rendered him useless in the effort.
Limits him, and he's had that a little bit of his career starting at Highland Tech and the last 3 years at Gaston Day.
Right, but we talked about teams that have separated themselves from the pack. Nobody's done that better than East Lincoln in this area.
And speaking of which, and that's another thing I was going to say, I'm planning on going to that game Friday. They play at Maiden, who is coached by none other than former Hunter Huss player Danny Anderson, who recently won his 700th game. They're the only team in the league with even a remote chance of pushing East Lincoln. So I'm looking forward to seeing Coach Anderson. He's been at West Caldwell, Starmount, and now Maiden. He's won over 700. I mean, a terrific coaching career. Played when Jerry Green, the future Kansas assistant to Roy Williams, and Tennessee head coach, and I believe he was the head coach at UNC Ashbrook for a brief time. When he was the Hunter Huss coach, and it was Sleepy Floyd. I mean, a real glorious time in Hunter Huss basketball history. But Danny Anderson's a former Huss guy, now coaching legend in North Carolina. But as we say, East Lincoln has set the bar really high in that league, and nobody's come close to catching them. Although we could make a case, and I'm writing a story on this sometime later this week. Lincoln's Chris Robinson, 57 points, and from talking to his coach, and again it gets out of whack. And it was interesting talking to Chris and the coach about it. The coach felt like, well, all the free throws, he was 27 of 29, made it feel like it wasn't so many points. He thought he had 40-something. And ironically, he'd seen the 57-point county record set 2 years ago when Robinson was a freshman, when Sage Surratt, now the Wake Forest football player, scored 57, also against Bandy's. But Chris Robinson felt like that the reffing of the game had something to do with it, because he said it really was rough the first time they played in Bandy's when Bandy's won, and so there were a lot more free throws and the refs got more control of it. But 27 out of 29 free throws, that's remarkable to hit all that many, but it's also equally remarkable that many fouls were called to send a man to the line 29 times.
And I think he had 9 twos and 5 threes as well. So he's really set the bar locally for scoring. And we've been blessed to have a lot of scorers this year. We've already talked about Lane Arrow. Chris Robinson's one of them.
Yep.
Justin Kuthan is another who just seems like he's putting up. Yeah.
Kuthan, Littlejohn. Yeah. I mean, we've had. I'll tell you what. Our All Gazette team is going to be hard to pick this year.
Yeah, we've already.
And it is a lot of years, but it's going to be a real challenge this year.
Yeah. It's crazy how quick this season has kind of gone, and pretty soon.
But we're getting into the good part of the year.
Yeah, conference tournaments are coming soon, and what do you kind of anticipate with this coming week? Not necessarily making predictions or looking into your crystal ball, but what do you kind of think the storyline will be once this week is over with?
Well, we'll have some clarity, one way or the other, in the Southwestern 2A, which again for 2 years has really been incredibly balanced.
Yeah.
We'll have some clarity. You'll see. We'll have clarity after tonight over at Ashbrook on both races, and an unexpected challenge for Lincoln Charter in the boys race, and then in the girls race, Lincoln Charter also winning, but none of those teams. I don't think anybody in the league has a winning record overall, so they're really kind of battling amongst themselves to kind of see where they get situated moving into the state playoffs. And Gaston Day now with a chance to kind of fulfill. They've been state semifinals 2 years ago, state finals last year. Are they good enough to do it again? The record would not indicate that, but they in Concord Assembly, the last time they could potentially see them would be Friday, based on the size of their schools, because I think their state playoffs come out on Saturday or Sunday, or Sunday, I guess, or Monday, heading into the following week. Yeah. So, this, in some respects, this could be Gaston Day's most difficult challenge before they go to the state playoffs. Obviously, want to see who exactly is in I believe they think they're going to be a 2A NCISAA bracket. So, a lot of things to talk about, and a lot of things we'll have to talk about in a week from now.
Yeah, we'll also see whether East Lincoln has clinched their division and put a bow on that, or whether they'll finish just undefeated.
Yeah.
Of course,
they've done that a few times. I mean, the last 2 times they've been in the state finals, they were unbeaten all the way to the championship game, and they lost to a Kinston team with Brandon Ingram and a Farmville Central team with some really talented players. So they're not quite going to be undefeated. They lost to Mallard Creek in their own Christmas tournament, but obviously another solid, fantastic year for East Lincoln Mustangs basketball.
Yeah, they're going to be a tough out for everybody, but definitely looking forward to seeing these games this week, and look forward to seeing how y'all vote for Players of the Week. We've definitely enjoyed your feedback in that regard, and definitely continue to vote if you can.
Yeah.
But again, look forward to seeing you this week at whatever basketball game you might be at. This is Richard Walker. I'm Joe Hughes. You have a great week.